Ever wonder what the word superpower really means? Like, in terms of sheer physical scale? Today, we're going to do something interesting. We're putting two allies, the United States and Spain, side by side. Why? To really get a handle on the massive difference in resources that defines a global power. Let's dive right in. So, here's the big question we're trying to answer. What's the real difference between a country that can project its power literally anywhere on the planet and a really strong, capable nation that's more focused on its own region? It really all comes down to scale.
And you know what makes this comparison so fascinating is that we're not talking about enemies here. Not at all. The US and Spain, they're partners. They're in alliances like NATO together. They operate side by side, they train together. And that just makes the contrast in their fundamental capabilities even more eye-opening.
Okay, and let's just be super clear about one thing. This is not about who would win in a fight. That's not the point. The goal here is to use the actual data to understand the immense infrastructure, the money, the hardware that's required to be a superpower. I mean, what does it actually take to operate on that global stage?
All right, so where do we even begin? Well, any nation's strength, really, it starts with two basic things: its people and its money. Think of them as the foundation, the building blocks for everything else. So let's start right there.
And boom, right out of the gate, the difference is just stark. The US has a population roughly 7 times larger than Spain's. And that, as you'd expect, translates into a much larger pool of available manpower. We're talking over 10 times the number of active military personnel. But, people are just one part of the equation. The other, arguably even bigger part, is the money that equips and supports them.
Okay, take a look at this number. This is the annual defense budget of the United States. 840 times billion dollars. Seriously, just let that number sit for a second.
And now, this. This is Spain's annual defense budget. $22 billion. Now, that's a very respectable figure, a serious budget for a major European nation. But when you put them side by side,
the picture just becomes crystal clear. I mean, that's not just a difference, it's a chasm. The US budget is nearly 40 times larger, and that kind of money, it doesn't just buy you more stuff, it buys you entirely different classes of stuff, and the global logistical network to support it all. It basically funds a completely different strategic reality.
Okay, so from money, let's shift gears and see how this all translates into air power, a totally critical component of modern military reach. And the numbers here, well, they tell a truly dramatic story.
so the total air fleet of the United States, over 13,000 aircraft. Spain's, just over 500. That's a staggering difference, more than 25 to 1. But honestly, that total number doesn't even tell the whole story. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. It's not just about having more fighters, though that's part of it. Look at the force multipliers, the assets that actually extend your reach. The US has 100 times more aerial tankers for refueling far from home. 100 times. But the real kicker, the crucial point, is that last line, strategic bombers. The US has 130 of them. Spain has 0. That isn't a capability gap. That's a capability that exists in an entirely different league, a league pretty much reserved for global powers.
All right, so let's come down from the skies and talk about the forces that control the seas and hold territory. And here again, we see these specific, unique assets that really define what it means to project power across the globe.
On the naval side, the gap is just profound. Yeah, the US has 64 submarines to Spain's 3, which is huge. But look at those top 2 rows. Destroyers, right? The workhorses of a true blue water navy, 92 to 0. And the ultimate symbol of power projection, aircraft carriers, 11 to 0.
Think about that. 11 aircraft carriers. Each one of those is basically a floating slice of sovereign American territory. It's an air base that can move anywhere in the world's oceans and launch strikes, deliver aid, secure sea lands. It is, without a doubt, the definitive tool of a global superpower.
And on land, well, the story continues. Of course, the difference in tanks and armored vehicles is massive. But notice that 0 category popping up again? Rocket projectors. See, this isn't just about having more gear. It points to a fundamental difference in military doctrine and the sheer scale of conflict each force is designed to fight.
But here's the part people often forget. It's one thing to have all this incredible hardware. It's a completely different challenge to get it where it needs to go, keep it supplied, and coordinate it all. This right here,
This is the unseen backbone of real military might.
And this is what makes it all possible, the infrastructure back home. Just take a second to let these numbers sink in. Over 13,000 serviceable airports in the US, compared to 150 in Spain. A railway network nearly 20 times as large. And look, this isn't just about getting around at home. This is the engine that allows a nation to move millions of tons of material and hundreds of thousands of people, first across an entire continent, and then out to ports to be shipped literally anywhere in the world.
And of course, in the modern era, logistics and operations are all about information. With over 4,500 satellites compared to Spain's 30, the US has a dominance in global communication, navigation, and intelligence that is, well, it's pretty much absolute.
And finally, there is this number, 5,244. That's the estimated number of nuclear warheads in the US arsenal. It's a capability that puts you in a strategic category all by itself.
So, after all these numbers, all this data, what does it all tell us when we put it together? It tells a story of purpose.
And this is the crucial takeaway. This isn't about one country being better or worse than the other. Not at all. Spain has a modern, very capable military. It's designed to be a formidable defender of its own territory and a strong contributor to European security. The United States military, on the other hand, is designed for a completely different job, to project overwhelming power anywhere on the planet at any time. Different roles, different scales.
Which, it kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In a world that's increasingly defined by alliances and partnerships between nations of vastly different scales, what is the role, and maybe the responsibility, of having such overwhelming power? Something to think about.